Welcome to the All Out Leadership Podcast, hosted by Pastor Eric Lawson, where each episode is uniquely designed to help you live all out by bringing you practical leadership from a biblical perspective delivered in 10 minutes or less. So whether you're a business leader, serving in ministry, or simply looking to grow in your leadership, this podcast is for you. Before we dive into this week's topic, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and download the show notes at ericlawson.com/podcast. And while you're at it, feel free to share the content on social media. Now, let's join Pastor Eric for this week's conversation.
Welcome to another edition of the All Out Leadership Podcast. So glad you are joining us. Also, want to remind you that our new book, Overcoming Overwhelmed, is on sale now on Amazon.com. And help us take the gospel around the world. When you buy this book, you are personally going to get blessed, but we're also taking much of the proceeds and we're using it to translate this book into other languages so that we can actually give this book away free in a digital format and take it around the world. So as you buy this book, as you're going through it, you're going to be blessed, but you're also putting it into the hands of many other people around the world in other languages. So excited to see how many lives are going to be touched through this. Our goal is to give away $1 million in value of this book around the world. So thank you for partnering with us. We're going to give another kind of tidbit, a little sneak piece, a little appetizer from the book today. And we're going to talk about, why does God allow us to be overwhelmed? If God is all-powerful, all-knowing, why doesn't he just stop our life from ever being overwhelmed? There are times it's self-inflicted. We talk about that in the book, but there are times God allows it. He didn't send it, didn't cause it, but there are times he'll allow it. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31 gives us a great insight and illustration as to why at times the Lord allows us to be overwhelmed. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Again, that's Isaiah 40, verse 31. Now, here's what I have found, that when my life is overwhelmed, I tend to seek God a whole lot more than when everything is going well and I'm on a beach sipping a virgin pina colada under a palm tree. It's when I'm stressed. It's the anxiety that often keeps bringing me back to waiting on God. Now, God likens this unto those that wait on him will mount up like eagles. They'll mount up like with wings of eagles. So we're going to look at that in illustration here for a moment. But I also want to highlight this first part. Those that wait on the Lord renew their strength. Often I have gotten frustrated waiting on the Lord. I'll talk to God. I'll cast my cares on him. And you know what? I'm like, okay, God, hurry up now. That is not waiting on the Lord. That's demanding of the Lord. The word wait is more of like a waiter. It's, how can I serve you, Lord? What would you like today? What we tend to do is we're like, okay, God, I'm waiting on you. Hurry up now. We look at it like parents waiting on kids to get in the car. That's not waiting on God. It's more of us serving God as a waiter, coming to him saying, what would you like today? What can I do for you? And it's when we're waiting on God, when we're serving God, when we're worshiping him, we're delighting in him, that's when our strength is renewed. God's not a spiritual vending machine, and he's not obligated to answer our prayer the way we want, when we want, and how we want. But if we'll seek him and wait on him, here's what we're going to find. He was really what we needed all along. There's times I'm waiting on God. God, I need money. I need money to pay that bill, and I'm waiting on God. And here's what I see in that process of waiting. What I realize is he truly is my provider. I think I need money. What I really need is God. Maybe you need healing and you think what you need is healing. What you really need is the healer. And what you'll find is often as you're waiting on him, you'll find out that he is really what you desired, what you needed, and what you longed for all along. And so when we realize he is everything we need and that we have him, then you'll find a renewing and a refreshing in your strength. So let's talk about the eagles for a moment and why they don't fear the overwhelming storms of life. We tend to fear storms. We see them coming. We want to batten down the hatches. Eagles don't. Eagles see storms and they soar because they fly headfirst into the storm. What the eagles do is they ride the thermals, which are those air currents that actually cause them to soar above the storms. They soar higher, they go further, and they go faster because they know how to ride the turbulence. They know how to take advantage and harness those thermals to go higher. Your greatest storms that you're facing that you think are designed to destroy you, that you think are designed to take you out, God has allowed it for you to stretch your wings of faith as you're waiting on Him. And actually, you're going to find that you're going to be able to soar to new heights and go farther than you ever could have had you not experienced some of these turbulent circumstances. So God reaches into nature to give us a tangible illustration, and that's the story of the eagle. When Mama Eagle is building her nest, she will build it thousands of feet up in the air on these large cliffs. And you would think, wow, that doesn't seem like good parenting to build, your baby's nursery right there on this 1,000-foot drop-off. But that's where they build it. And what they're building their nest, they go get these sharp sticks, and they build the edges of their nest with these large pokey sticks. But in the middle, they use down and they use fur and their feathers, and they make a nice soft center. So when they lay their eggs, the babies hatch there in the center where it's nice and soft and it's nice and cushy. And that's really a picture of us as newborn baby Christians. When we come to Christ, like everything is great. We're like, whoa, this is wonderful. Mama bird goes out and does the fishing, does the hunting, does the gathering, brings it to the little babies, regurgitates it into the little babies' mouths. The babies sit there and get fat going, man, life is great. People come to church. Pastor went out and dug up in the Word, brought in some great fish. He regurgitates it to us. We just sit there and go, whoa, being a Christian's great. God will allow us to be cute, fluffy, and fat for a while. God will allow us to sit in these comfortable seasons for a while. But like Mama Eagle, He doesn't allow us to remain there forever. As these baby eaglets grow, what happens is they start bumping into one another. So, baby sister, baby brother, they start bumping into one another. They start losing space, so they start bumping into the sharp sticks on the outside of the nest. They get poked and it's not very comfortable. It's really a picture of growing spiritually. As we are growing in Christ, we start bumping into other believers. We start, bumping into our brothers and sisters in Christ. They're kind of poking me. I kind of don't like how this feels. God allows these friction points to remind us we can't stay babies forever. Yes, it's okay to start there, but it's not okay to stay there. Then one day, baby eaglet's in the nest going, hey, this is great. One day out of nowhere, mom bumps that nest and the baby eaglet falls out of that nest and will begin to fall and plummet at terminal velocity towards the ground. It might fall 1,000 feet and that little bird starts flapping its, few feathers and mom swoops down and that catches that baby eaglet right on the back between its wings, flies up, drops it back into the nest. And that little baby's probably in there squawking, going, what kind of parenting is this? I'm going to report you. This is horrible. And then, after a while, everything goes back to normal. Baby's fine. But then again, mom's going to bump that nest again. And what's happening is mom will keep bumping that nest over and over till one day, once baby eaglet begins to flap its wings, it will have built the strength to actually begin to fly. And that's how it's taught to fly. Many of us will not fly and soar at times until God kicks us out of the nest. And what happens is there's these storms, there's these overwhelming circumstances that force us to stretch our wings of faith and flap, that stretch us to wait on God and seek Him and realize He's our source. But over time, what's going to happen is we will soar, we will go further, we will go farther than we ever would have had God not allowed sometimes overwhelming circumstances in our life. We look forward to seeing you next week. Got one more important insight on overcoming overwhelm.
Thank you for joining us on the All Out Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained new biblical insight that challenged you to grow in your leadership. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would love your help in getting the content out farther. You can help by subscribing to the podcast at eriklawson.com/podcast and telling others about it. Next week, Pastor Eric will be back with another episode. So until then, we hope you have a great week being an all-out leader.